Hello everyone and welcome to my new Tibia Ironman series. This is my new character, Skogul the Trapper. Trapper is going to follow all the usual Ironman rules. I cannot use the market, I cannot trade with other players and abuse other players to achieve my goals. In other words, I have to play as single player as possible. In addition to that, Trapper's progression is going to be heavily decided by the new system of bounties, weekly tasks and weekly deliveries. These were introduced in the most recent winter update. Every week on Monday you can roll a list of 6 to 9 creatures as well as 6 to 9 items. You will have a week to kill these creatures as well as deliver these items. By default, there's only 6 creatures and 6 items on the lists. I opted to spend some Tibia coins to purchase an expansion, so both my lists contain 9 positions. Firstly, I must hunt all the creatures that appear on the creature list. If an area where these creatures reside contains more than one creature, of course I am allowed to hunt these other creatures as well, however I must not abuse that too much. Secondly, I can also hunt creatures that drop the items on my delivery list. Just like before, I am allowed to kill all the creatures in that spawn. And thirdly, once I complete the weekly hunting task list, I am allowed to start rolling for the bounties. The bounties are rollable every single time you complete one. You can select one of 3 creatures and then you have to hunt it for a small EXP reward as well as some additional points. Most rewards for engaging with this content are purely cosmetic. My main goal right now is to obtain the Feral Trapper outfit, but there are other things you can spend the points on that I might consider along the way. And lastly, this character has not been created by me, I have actually purchased it from the car bazaar. It has some decent stats because I no longer have the free time to skill the character myself. With that, we are ready to begin. My first weekly task pool contained some interesting creatures, however the delivery tasks were absolutely horrible. Considering I was merely level 8 and severely undergeared, I decided to first go for the swamp trolls. I had to slay 32 of those, which is not a lot, but each task completed rewards you some XP, so that was still going to be quite a major boost. The only notable thing about the swamp trolls are the medicine pouches that they drop. They can be exchanged for some rare rewards, but I only got 2 of those, so I didn't exactly have much of a shot. Having killed the trolls and exchanged the medicine pouches for some trinkets, it was time to move on to the next task. I was not very excited for this one because it seemed like quite the jump in difficulty. Thankfully, I just underestimated the impact of my character's pre-skilled distance fighting. I was able to make short work of the leaf golems, as well as some poachers and wilting leaf golems that I found in the same spawn. I still took care not to mess with the forest furies though. At this point I have completed 2 tasks and the creatures on my list were only becoming stronger. My level was progressing very fast thanks to the additional XP drops, but I wasn't exactly making enough gold. I spent most of my money on spears and ammunition. Meanwhile, I was trying to save up so that I can afford blessings, not to mention very expensive ship travel that I absolutely needed in order to complete some of the tasks. Next on the list were regular elves. Being only level 12 and not even having a shield, I was a bit concerned about tackling too many elves at once. Large crowds of elf scouts or elf arcanists would also be the end of me, so I needed a small but chill place. I remembered running across a weird spawn, northwest from Abdendriel. There is a quest door there, so it's seemingly related to some quest, but I never had the pleasure of doing that one. Still, the place was amazing. There were a couple of scouts and arcanists, but I have once more overestimated their power. I was able to kill them quite easily, and I left the place equipped with a new gear upgrade, a plate shield. Now it was time for task 4. I was out of easy options, but already level 15, so I decided it was the perfect moment to try killing some Crypt shamblers. They are very slow, but very heavy-hitting undead enemies that can be found in larger quantities, very deep in Mount Sternum. They are also accompanied by ghouls, mummies, other undead as well as bone lords. Even just reaching them was going to be a little bit of a risk, because I had to go through large quantities of cyclops, which can also hit rather hard. Crypt shamblers have a chance of dropping a bone shield, but I did not get lucky enough to drop that one. Instead, I upgraded my helmet, first to a Viking helm and then to an iron helmet. I had no way of dealing with troublesome ghosts, and I was running low on spears by the end of the task, but I was able to kill all the required creatures in time before they ran out. Despite getting me to level 20, I was still nowhere close being able to afford anything like a promotion or fancy spells that would help my hunts further. For now, I was able to save a little bit of money, thanks to using the Adventurers Guild teleportation system. You can only use it 5 times, but it allows you to travel to any city of choice. Most importantly, it is completely free, which is exactly what we needed at this point. People watching my stream voted for the next creatures we kill to be Congras and Zibangs. Luckily, they both appear in the same area. We took a quick teleport to Port Hope, grabbed our bow with some arrows and got ready to hunt. While in the undead caves, we dropped a scale armor, which I decided not to pick up because it would weigh too much for the little armor it gave. However, when a Congra dropped a plate armor, I decided it's about time for us to shore up our defenses even further. We only had 2 tasks on our list left, Mercury Blobs and Pirate Marauders. They were both going to be a little bit troublesome. The best place to kill the Pirate Marauders, and the only place where we can hunt Mercury Blobs, is Yalahar. However, that place requires a rather lengthy quest in order to be accessed. We needed to find a dwarven pickaxe. These can be either obtained from Woosgod by delivering a family brush to him, or you can find them laying around in the dwarven mines randomly. Unfortunately, it seems someone on the server made it a business to collect these, and we couldn't find any, so the family brush was going to be our only choice. It can be found in the dwarven prison of Dwakatra. Accessing the prison is not a lot of trouble, but the brush itself is guarded by a bunch of dwarf guards and dwarf soldiers. At this point, I have not yet ironed out the rules related to completing quests. As you can see on this recording, I managed to get myself trapped by the dwarves, and I had to kill one of them, even though they were not on my hunting list. Save for this one time, in the future, whenever I want to complete a quest, I have to either do it completely killless, or one of the creatures guarding the treasure has to be on my hunting list, making it a huntable spawn according to my rules. With the dwarven pickaxe in hand, we had to pay the hefty price of 400 gold coins to get transported to Yalahar, but here we were finally able to complete the remaining tasks. First, the pirates. Though they were a little bit troublesome with their heavy damage, they also dropped a steel shield, which improved my defenses and made it a little bit easier to tank them. Afterwards, it was time for Mercury Blobs. They themselves don't drop anything of note, but they are surrounded by mutated humans and rats, and those drop a lot of gold, which we needed very much. With that, we were finally done with our weekly hunting list, save for the 1000 of any creatures category. We were going to ignore that one. I am not allowed to kill any creature. I have to still stick to the rules I named earlier. I purchased 2 more blessings and then decided to focus on the things on the delivery tasks. Unfortunately, even though I selected a set for beginner level, there were only 2 items that dropped from creatures we were able to hunt at all. Firstly, the black shields. We needed to deliver 19 of those, and they dropped from mummies. However, it was just about 1 in 1000. which we are never going to kill in time. The other option, the shiny stones, was not much better at all. The shiny stones drop from 1 in 100 golems and roughly 1 in 500 kills of gargoyles. What was, however, very lucky and interesting about this task was the fact that stone golems and gargoyles can both be found in the same spawns, and they are part of killing in the name of quest. I decided to try to go for the shiny stones. While it was unreasonable to think I was able to deliver those in time, I could at least complete 6 tasks for Grizzly Adams and get some points going for some demon hunts in the future. I used this opportunity to the fullest. I completed all Grizzly's tasks, as well as bestiary entries for golems and gargoyles. I have also found a steel shield and a battle shield, as well as a lot of money. This task alone solved most of my early game problems, and frankly, with my current level of 37, I was no longer in the early game. At this point, I have easily spent over half of my character's life in the Golems and Gargoyles cave, and I was just about ready to find something new to do. It was time to engage with the bounties. Unlike the weekly tasks, the bounties can be rerolled multiple times a day. You receive one free reroll every day, as well as every single time you complete a bounty. The first bounty I rolled for was a cobra, however I decided to reroll over that because I didn't feel like it was valuable enough for me to spend time on. A bounty that I found worthwhile was Elf Scouts. I have already hunted some Elf Scouts during my weekly tasks, but there's never enough Elf Scouts, considering they can drop a serious upgrade to my gear. The Elvish bow is a rather iconic piece. Not only it is one of the first new bows introduced to the game, it also can be obtained relatively quickly, despite being rather rare. It is on the radar of pretty much every single Paladin Ironman, and it was no different for me. To my surprise, I was able to draw my own Elvish bow very early into the task. I think I have barely killed 7 at the time. That made this and the following tasks that much sweeter. With the weekly task update being relatively fresh, there's still a ton of high-level players running around low-level areas, completing low-level bounties. I had quite the competition at Elves, though it was no surprise since I picked a rather popular spot, but I was very surprised to learn that my second bounty that I picked, the Rabid Wolves, was going to be even worse. Rabid Wolves were added in an area that was dedicated to new players who have just left New Haven, previously Dawnport, for them to have another layer of tutorial that isn't found in that previous starter area. Hilariously, the whole spawn can barely contain 2, maybe 3 people without them running into each other and interfering with each other's hunts. The place is tiny, the creature spawns are sparse, and of course, as usual, it's full of level 200 and 300 players doing their bestiaries or completing hunting tasks. It took over an hour to kill just about 60 of these super early game, very easy creatures. Next bounty, Barbarian Headhunters. I love barbarians because they make for rather easy hunts with a lot of creatures and interesting drops. Notably, headhunters and skull hunters can drop knives in large quantities, and apparently knives are on the delivery item list, so I am going to stock up on those in advance so that I don't need to worry about them if I ever roll this delivery. They also tend to live together with barbarian brute tamers. These girls can drop a mammoth fur cape, which would be a very nice alternative to my plate armor, considering it weighs way less having the same armor value. Having finished this bounty, I realized that I am already level 38, and I am going to miss out on the Minotaur task if I don't roll Minotaurs or just rush the quest itself without killing anything very soon. I was also hoping to roll some sort of a dwarf. I wanted to kill dwarf soldiers because they are the easiest source of a crossbow, which I needed to be eligible for the desert quest. I ended up rolling the dwarf guards first. It was not ideal, but I was going to have to make do. I could not afford to roll over dwarves. I was able to somehow rush through the first part of the Minotaur task, where you have to deliver a mining helmet back to Woodrick, barely avoiding getting trapped with some smart use of firebombs. And then I headed back to Duakatra. It was the place where I was going to try to hunt dwarf guards and dwarf soldiers, hoping to get that crossbow. It happened very quickly, and I decided it's time to get a little bit more serious about my dwarf guard hunting. Dwarf guards have always been rather scary to me. They're kind of tanky and they can hit very hard. They're one of those creatures that you always have to be a little bit wary of. And then I realized I am still wielding that stupid battle shield that I got from a gargoyle. It was nowhere near strong enough to tank a dwarf guard, even if my skills are kind of high. As soon as I started considering what sort of shield I could upgrade to, I quickly remembered that the Griffin shield quest, the one that is just outside of the door to Demona, it has a bunch of dwarf guards. Since I could hunt dwarf guards, I was also allowed to hunt anything in the same spawn, which meant that essentially, if I could get through the maze of the Lost Souls without killing anything, I could easily just clear the final room and grab the iconic Griffin shield, which is one of my favorite pieces of equipment. Save for a couple of annoying moments where I had to dodge an orc berserker and remind myself what the exiled route to Demona entrance was. The whole trip was rather uneventful. I grabbed only the Griffin shield because I did not really care for the other rewards, and I made my way back. Slaying the remaining dwarf guards was not going to be a problem at all anymore. My next role? Quaramantassin Scouts. They were once again going to be something I hunted in Svargrand. They offered an uncommon drop of a stealth ring. Also, they came in the same spawn as Quara Hydromancers. These could drop me a knight armor, which I could technically obtain in other ways, but it would be still a nice upgrade. The other tasks this week included more barbarians with no notable drops, and dwarf voodoo masters, which enabled me to hunt a bunch of venom snipers, which have a chance to drop bust scares, which I wanted for the obsidian knife eventually. Unfortunately, I got none of these, but we made some good progress on their bestiaries at least. I finished the week off by picking up a mammoth bounty and taking it to the mammoth shearing factory. There I could hunt not only mammoths but also witches, to drop the bag of apple slices, which could be an easy to get early mount, as well as elephants in order to drop a task, which I need to convince one of the sailors in Yalahar to open the sea routes. And with that, my week was done. I went from level 8 to 40, I gathered a pretty decent equipment, and I already could not wait for more weekly tasks. If you're interested in following my journey live, I will be streaming from time to time, no set days, on YouTube. I suppose you'll just have to subscribe and keep an eye out. But for now, thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in starting an Ironman journey of your own, we have reactivated our guild on Sakura. We are now called the Iron Bears. Feel welcome to apply through Tibia.com or join our Discord server in order to learn more. I am also extending a very jovial invitation to all our former guild members. We would be very happy to see you back in our guild. So once more, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.